it's got to clearly depend on how bad the shot is, though. Because if you get fouled and knocked unconscious and then you come back,
you're just going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
If you get knocked out, that's why boxing, right?
In with that right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some...
Big part of it is speed. Anthony Joshua has that kind of...
Joe Rogan reacted to Jake Paul being taken to the hospital after the knockout loss to Anthony Joshua while speaking with Daniel Cormier. Rogan said the punch looked extremely powerful and reminded viewers how dangerous boxing truly is. He explained that when fighters are hit clean at that level, the results can be serious and sometimes long-lasting. Rogan stressed that boxing outcomes are never fully predictable and that heavy impacts can cause damage that stays with fighters long after the fight is over.
He was done.
He outboxed him for the rest of the round.
How? But again, in MMA, fight probably would have been over, and he would have took less damage.
Right, but isn't that a better...
Sports doctor Brian Sutterer explained the situation from a medical point of view. He said the fight result itself was not surprising, but the real concern came afterward when Jake Paul said he believed his jaw might be broken. Sutterer explained that a jaw fracture was possible based on how Anthony Joshua's right hand landed on the side of Jake's face. However, he noted that concussion risk was the bigger concern. He explained that doctors first focus on the brain, neck, and airway because those injuries can be more dangerous. The sudden turning of Jake's head from the punch likely caused strong force to the brain, increasing concussion risk. Even though Jake was not fully knocked out, Sutterer said delayed symptoms were still possible. Jake's immediate reaction showed he understood something serious had happened.
Outcome that we all expected. After the fight, though, Jake told Ariel Helwani that he was worried that he had broke his jaw. He said multiple times he was concerned that he had a fractured jaw. And certainly looking at this knockout punch that Anthony Joshua delivers, it is absolutely a possibility that Jake does in fact have a jaw fracture. I'd honestly be more concerned about a concussion. In fact, with most jaw fractures, the more important thing initially is to look for other injuries to the head, to the neck, to the airway. The jaw fracture potentially being there or not is going to be lower on the list often than whether there's damage to the airway, damage to the head. And so very possible to have a concussion or some residual symptoms from this, as Jake Paul's head is relatively still here. We see AJ comes in with that right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some delayed symptoms. But you can see where the punch comes in, landing square on that left side of Paul's face. Jake's reaction was pretty telling too. Right away after it, we could see him going down on the canvas here and being very shocked. It doesn't look like there's any obvious deformity to the jaw. We won't necessarily always see a deformity to the jaw, but you could tell he clearly had realized that something serious had happened there and feeling the full power of AJ's right. And finally, on this last view, we can see a little bit better the exact location where the punch comes in. We'll talk about our jaw anatomy, the different areas of the bones, but your temporomandibular joint, where your jaw articulates with the rest of your skull, is sitting right around in this area, and the jaw is roughly coming down in this orientation. And so where that punch comes in from Joshua is a little bit more kind of flush right in the center of the mandible, but also up.
Joe Rogan had warned before the fight that the matchup could end badly for Jake Paul. He explained that Jake was used to fighting older or retired opponents, but this time he was facing one of the top heavyweights in the world. Rogan said the difference in level would be harsh and unforgiving. According to him, heavyweight boxing leaves very little room for mistakes.
What do you think about Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua?
Boy. Well, realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division. Maybe we should watch the Francis Ngannou fight so you could see. Let's watch that real quick, just so you can see what Anthony Joshua is capable if he's fighting someone that's not in his league. Okay, look, Usyk beat him, and he beat him twice, and Andy Ruiz caught him in the first fight and dropped him and stopped him.
After the fight, reactions poured in from across the boxing world. Some fans praised Jake Paul for his bravery and willingness to face a dangerous opponent. However, many respected boxing voices strongly disagreed with that praise. Luke Thomas was one of the most critical. He said the reaction to Jake's performance was overblown. According to Thomas, people were applauding Jake for simply lasting in the ring rather than actually competing. He argued that Anthony Joshua did not fight at full intensity and showed restraint. From Thomas's view, this was not a true competitive fight. He said Jake struggled for most of the bout, failed to apply pressure, and did not show clear intent to win.
Initially watched the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight. I think I would say that my conclusions now still match most of what I said when I was watching on the initial broadcast, which is that Joshua, he did look a little rusty to me. I'm sorry, but he did. That Jake is, probably a little bit better than we suggested he might be. When I say we, I mean like the hardcore fight community, the fight fans, the people who work in the industry to a degree. Sometimes there is a suggestion that he can't do anything. And I would be like, well, that's a little much. He can do stuff. I mean, it's limited what he can do. It's very limited what he can do. But there is a little bit too much anger towards him sometimes, or just dismissiveness, maybe is a better way to put that. And I don't really co-sign on some of that. He's got some ability. He's not good. Listen to me very carefully. He's not good. But is he the caricature that he is sometimes made out to be in terms of his pure boxing skill? I think it goes a little overboard sometimes. But that isn't the reason why I wanted to make this video. What I wanted to make this video about is two things. One, after the fight was over, I got on social media and people were like hugely negative about the fight. And I did not think that the fight was good. In fact, I thought the fight was, like most Jake Paul fights, pretty bad, although him surviving kind of feeds into the story of him being perhaps a little bit better than we sometimes think, although I don't really co-sign on that. Let me make the point. The first point is, I think people are overreacting a little bit. A little bit. People were suggesting when I got on social media that this was like the biggest farce they'd ever seen in their life, and that this was, how could he fight like this, and this was a disaster, and Joshua should have got him out there earlier. There is probably some evidence to suggest that I don't think Joshua was carrying him in the sense of, hey, they coordinated this ahead of time. But was Joshua really stepping on the gas? No, I don't think he was really stepping on the gas. There were times I think he clearly...
Lawrence Wacky took a slightly different approach but reached a similar conclusion. He focused on how unforgiving boxing can be. He explained that one mistake can instantly end a fight, no matter how famous a fighter is. From his perspective, Jake Paul facing Anthony Joshua was a risky decision. He said mismatches do not become acceptable just because they attract attention. While some commentators praised Jake for enduring the punishment and continuing, others pointed out that toughness alone does not define a professional boxer. Reports later confirmed Jake was taken to the hospital with a serious jaw injury. Some saw this as proof of courage, but even supporters stopped short of calling it a strong boxing performance. The praise focused on bravery, not skill.
To the hospital, I think I broke my jaw. We all know he broke his jaw. We all know we've seen the x-ray. There is a video of the x-ray that he showed us on his Instagram, so that was no AI. And it showed where his jaw had to be reconstructed and, wired, right? So he can't have any hard foods for a while. And again, I think Jake Paul is going to get respect for that, because it's one thing, because we all know about Jake. I think the problem with Jake was he was bullshitting us by giving us fights that we didn't want to see, for one, and for two, wasn't giving us fights most of the time of the people that could beat him. He gave us Tommy Fury, and then Tommy Fury actually beat him, which, whatever. But he did drop Tommy Fury with a left hook, so that was an impressive thing he did against the guy. Can't say the only guy now, because AJ fought him and knocked him out. But, other than that, though, fighting Mike Tyson, Anderson Silva, which Anderson Silva showed that he is still very dangerous and very, very ready at 50 years old. You know what I mean? Like, what he did to Tyron Woodley was classic Anderson Silva. He picked his shots. You know what I mean? He moved with grace, he moved with wisdom, and he knew exactly what to do. And again, he should have went over to boxing a long time ago, but Jake beat him. So that just made Jake's, stock rise, right? in the sense of, hey, well, he beat Anderson Silva.
Adam Catterall was especially direct in his criticism. He argued that Jake Paul represents how popularity is being rewarded over merit in modern boxing. According to Catterall, Anthony Joshua did not even use full power, yet still caused serious damage. This, he said, showed the clear gap between the two fighters. Catterall warned that if Joshua had fully committed to his punches, the result could have been far worse. His broader point was about the direction of the sport. Fighters who spend years earning rankings often struggle for opportunities, while internet stars receive big fights quickly. For Catterall, this matchup highlighted that problem clearly. He viewed it as a sign that attention is sometimes valued more than competitive integrity.